Oh, we missed this, but this is awesome. Jon Stewart, a little late to it. We had Lena Khan on the show 6 years ago, I think it was, right? Jon Stewart had Lena Khan on The Daily Show. Mm-hmm. What does he do? He does 1 day a week?
He does 1 day a week now, yeah.
And he had, Jon Stewart had Lena Khan on The Daily Show. And this is fascinating. Again, it shows the power of monopoly. On some level. And what happens when you have a company that has amassed such fortunes? It is perfectly, and what's also amazing juxtaposition is compare like what Apple is censoring versus like what Spotify doesn't censor. But here is Jon Stewart with Lena Khan. Again, we had her on 6 years ago or 5 years ago, but he's catching on.
They're saying this new algorithm, this new kind of machine learning model called AI, that's going to transform every aspect of American life.
Also, seeing as how things that were pre-existing. Nice mugs.
Oh, yeah.
Nice mugs you got there. Go ahead.
Cease and desist.
The American economies. It's already being consolidated. Apple has bought 30 AI models. Microsoft has probably bought. Google has bought. They all buy AI startups and put them behind their paywall. And they're already having an arms race to see who will be either the monopoly or this will be an oligopoly. I got to tell you, I wanted to have you on a podcast. And Apple asked us not to do it, to have you. They literally said, please don't talk to her. Having nothing to do with what you do for a living. I think they just... I didn't think they cared for you, is what happened. They wouldn't let us do even that dumb thing we just did in the first act on AI. Like, what is that sensitivity? Why are they so afraid to even have these conversations out in the public sphere?
I think it just shows one of the dangers of what happens when you concentrate so much power and so much decision making in a small number of companies. I mean, going back all the way to the founding, there was a recognition that in the same way that you need the Constitution to create checks and balances in our political sphere, right, you also needed the antitrust and anti-monopoly laws to safeguard against concentration of economic power, because you don't want an autocrat of trade in the same way that you don't want a monarch.
But then it took them, I mean, it wasn't until the Sherman Act in what, 1890?
We don't, and so, great exchange. And it's fascinating to me that you have Apple will censor and keep someone from having the FTC chair on to talk about antitrust, where Spotify is saying to their big money maker, hey, man, bring on any lunatic you want to put out any BS you want, and we're just going to keep raking in the dough. I mean, that's obviously a big problem there. And I will say that, like, you know, I've been in. I was actually invited to a meeting between some liaisons with Google, and myself and one other very big, who is basically the CEO and also host of a very big show on there. I think you're quite familiar with it, probably. I mean, no, I know for a fact you are. And they were like, what should we know about, about the Democrats maybe coming in? I can't remember when this was. And maybe it was even pre-2016, actually. And because there are hearings about antitrust. And I was like, well, I got to tell you, like, I hope they break your company into a bunch of different pieces. No, I appreciate the money that we make from you, but... And this guy was like, I'll come and testify and be willing to say that they shouldn't do this. This is all BS. I actually remember the guy going, like, I've read Matt Stoller. It's not a big... And I was like, well, this is probably the last time I'd be at one of these conversations, because I'm obviously not telling you guys what you want to hear. But
Hey, I'm happy with where we're at. I mean,
but it was pretty funny to me.
pretty illuminating. But I mean, what this just to give people a sense of what this suit is about, it's basically that how when you're sending a message from your iPhone that comes up green if somebody else doesn't have an iPhone, the green those green texts don't have encryption on them, and that is Apple basically trying to make it more difficult for you to communicate with people who do not have other iPhones, right? And so that is considered, according to Lena Khan in this lawsuit, an anti-competitive monopolistic practice. And there's also this pairs very well with her suit against Google, I think, right? On antitrust grounds, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm conflating the two.
Well,
but,
the Google suit is more of like a it's all anti-competitive stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Right. But this lawsuit could potentially make force Apple to encrypt all of this and to make the user experience more applicable for when you're trying to communicate with people who have different branded phones. But
the reason why
trying
the
to
iPhone 15 has the USB-C connectors, I think, is in Europe. They basically said you can't do this.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
But they need to. They're arguing publicly that this is going to affect their ability to make their data more secure for its users. And it's like, well, why don't you just encrypt all of it, all communications, and standardize it? But that's what they're at least arguing for in front of the court.